Hello there, my name is Tim Davies. Welcome to our FTS online class, and we're now moving on to economics. And the thing about economics is that it's not that difficult, it's just a lot. It's not like quants where it's a few challenges there, so this is going to be a lot easier. It's just the volume here, there's a lot to get through. So in the first part of economics, we've got these 4 readings over here. So the first 2 are what we call microeconomics, and then the last 2 are the macroeconomic stuff. So there is another reading of a study session after this, economics 2. So we've got 2 study sessions to get through of economics. Right, so let's start off then with the first one, which is the topics in demand and supply analysis. Now, one thing that CFA Institute do mention in the curriculum is that candidates are expected to be familiar with the basic concepts of demand and supply. So most people are, because most people have studied, some economics course before doing CFA. But if not, it's best that you perhaps read those. There's 3 prerequisite readings that you can get on the CFA Institute website. Okay, so let's get started then. So we're going to start off with elasticity of demand. And before we look at own price elasticity of demand, let's just talk about what elasticity of demand is in general. So what it does, it measures how sensitive quantity demand it is to various variables. So if we're looking at own price elasticity of demand, what does it mean? Own price elasticity of demand is a measure of how sensitive quantity demand it is to a change in the price of the good. So how do we work it out? We take the percentage change in quantity demanded for good X, and we divide it by the percentage change in the price of good X. So what we're trying to see here is, we know when price changes, quantity demanded for the good changes. But what we're trying to establish is by how much does the quantity change when the price changes. And this relationship between price of the good and the quantity demanded for the good, it's almost always negative. Why? Because as the price goes up, it becomes more expensive, the quantity demanded goes down. So we have this negative relationship between the two. But we do get an exception, which we're going to see towards the end of this class. Okay, so let's have a look then at, we get elastic demand and inelastic. So let's start with elastic demand. So what we can see over here with elastic demand is that we've got a relatively flat demand curve. And the way to remember it is that elastic, just think like we're stretching an elastic band. So it's becoming pretty flat. So we see how the percentage change in price, the percentage increase in price over here results in a higher percentage decrease in quantity demanded. So we can see the price is going up only by a little bit, but the quantity demanded is falling down a lot. So in this instance, the own price elasticity is more than 1 in absolute terms. In absolute, remember, all we mean is that we ignore the negative sign. So for example, if the elasticity is minus 1.6, if the price of the good goes up 1%, so let's put it over here. The price is going up 1% there. Now the quantity demanded is going down more than 1%. It's going down by 1.6%. So let's put in 1.6 over here. So it's going down by, the quantity demand is going down by 1.6%. So if we take 1.6 here divided by 1, or minus 1.6 rather, divided by 1, we're going to get minus 1.6. So in absolute terms means we just ignore this minus sign. So if the number is more than 1 in absolute terms, then we have what we call elastic demand. And what about inelastic demand? You can see with inelastic demand that we've got a much steeper demand curve over here. And the way to remember it is like this. it looks like an eye almost, doesn't it? Because inelastic's got an eye in it. And if we've got a steep demand curve, it also almost looks like an eye like that. Okay, so that's a good way to remember it. But look at the difference now, that we've got the percentage increase in price over here results in a lower percentage decrease in quantity demanded. So we've got the price going up a lot here, but the demand, quantity demand is not changing by much. It's falling, but not by much. So in this case, the own price elasticity is going to be less than 1 in absolute terms. So let's try this example. If they tell us elasticity is minus 0.4, we could have a situation like this. Let's just do it on this side over here now. We've got price going up 1% again, but look what happens now. The demand is only falling down 0.4%, or it's going down, so I put a minus there, minus 0.4. So if we take the minus 0.4 over here and divide it by the 1, we're going to get minus 0.4. So in absolute terms, if we ignore the minus sign, it's less than 1. So when elasticity is less than 1 in absolute terms, then we have inelastic demand. Okay, so there we go. All right, so let's have a look now at the elasticity of a linear demand curve. And what we need to realize is that elasticity is not the same as the demand curve, because the slope is dependent on the units that the price and quantity are in. So if we just stop there, let's just say this is the demand curve for milk or something like that. The price we're going to see here is how many dollars for a liter of milk. So there's the units. And then the quantity here will be how many liters of milk are demanded, let's say, in a month or whatever. So elasticity is actually based on percentage changes, not dependent on units. So that's why we've got that statement up front there. So if we look at what revenue is, we all know what revenue is. To work out our revenue, we see the price we sold at and how many did we sell, the quantities. So revenue times price times quantity, that's going to give us the revenue. So what we actually need to understand is that elasticity, it actually varies depending on where it is calculated. So if we look at it down here, with inelastic demand, remember what happens with inelastic demand? The percentage increase in price, sorry about that, the percentage increase in price is greater than the percentage decrease in quantity demanded. So if we look at our equation over here at the top, the good news is that if we increase price, we sell stuff at a higher price. So price is going up there. So I'm going to put it up like that, a nice big up arrow like that. But the bad news is that when we increase price, the quantity demand is going to go down. But if we have inelastic demand, the good news, the increase in price, is actually outweighing the bad news with the quantity demanded falling. So overall, what happens? Revenue goes up. So I'm going to put an arrow there. Overall revenue goes up when we have inelastic demand. So when we have inelastic demand, we can actually increase our revenue when we increase price, because the increase in price here, the good news outweighs the bad news of the quantity demanded falling. So overall our revenue goes up. But if we have elastic demand, it's actually not so good, not good news if we increase price. Why? Because the percentage increase in price, it's actually less than the percentage decrease in quantity demanded. So if we draw a small arrow now like this, the price is going up. That's the good news. We're charging a high price. But the bad news now is that quantity demanded is falling down a lot if we have elastic demand. So overall, what happens? We have our revenue going down because our quantity is falling so much. So overall revenue goes down with the elastic demand situation. So revenue goes down when price is up. So when we have elastic demand, we mustn't increase price because our revenue goes down. We should actually decrease price to sell more, okay, to make more. We decrease price to make more. So when we have unit elastic demand, so unity means 1. So that means our price elasticity is -1. So minus because we have, remember from the previous slide, we have this negative relationship between price and quantity. So higher price means lower quantity. So this is where revenue is actually maximized at that price, right, where we have the unit elastic demand. Excellent. So now we're going to look at the extremes of price elasticity. So if we have perfectly elastic demand, we can think of the elastic band now. It's perfectly stretched, so it's perfectly horizontal. So this means that we have infinite elasticity. So at any higher price, quantity demand is zero. So we can't put up the price to anything, otherwise we're going to sell nothing. So we're going to see this demand curve when we come to perfect competition in a later class. And if we've got perfectly inelastic demand, we can see now. So remember for inelastic, sorry, I was just trying to get my pen working here. If we look at inelastic, remember it's I for inelastic because we've got a steep demand curve, and so perfect inelastic looks like a perfect I. Hey? So that is perfectly inelastic demand. So we have zero elasticity, in other words. So what we can say is this: how much is sold is not dependent on the price. So whether the price is down here or the price is up there, the quantity demanded is the same. All right. So that's why it's an extreme, because it doesn't really happen much like that. Right. So let's now have a look at the factors that affect elasticity. So if we start on the left here with elastic demand, we can see with elastic demand, if we put up our price a little bit over here along the vertical axis, quantity demanded falls down a lot because there are many good substitutes. A good example is with bread. If Albany, for example, puts up their price of bread just a little bit, then we won't buy Albany, we'll buy Sasco bread or Blue Ribbon or one of the other brands, right? But with inelastic demand, if we look here, if there's inelastic demand for a product, they can put up their price a heck of a lot over there. Demand will fall, but not by much. So that is the difference, right? And because there's few good substitutes, they can put up their price a lot and demand's not going to fall because there's few good substitutes. And for the next point, I actually want to stick with the inelastic demand because it's easy to understand. So if we spend a small portion of our budget on a good, then we normally have inelastic demand for that. A good example is with toothpaste. So let's say a tube of toothpaste costs 10 Rand. If they put up the price 20%, it's going to go to 12 Rand. So that's a small part of our monthly budget. 2 Rand's not going to make a difference. So we're not going to be really concerned. So they can put up the price a lot and the demand's not really going to change much. But if we spend a large portion of our budget on a good, and if they put up the price a little bit, then demand's going to fall down a lot. So for example, with housing, because housing is very expensive. So if housing goes up 20%, we can expect the demand for that to fall a lot, because 20% on a huge amount, it's going to be a lot of extra money to be able to come up with. Right, and then let's have a look here at this for the next point on the inelastic side. They say short-run demand is inelastic. Why? Let's take, for example, with electricity supply with Eskom. If they put up their price, say, huge amounts, let's say 30, 40% or whatever, there's in the short run, there's not really much play, nowhere else really to go. So it's going to be inelastic in the short run because there's no real substitutes. But in the long run, it becomes more elastic because in the long run, alternative energy sources can be developed, like, for example, with renewable energy. So in the long run, then when those things are developed, then if they put up the price a bit, then demand is going to fall a lot. Okay. And then the last thing is with non-discretionary and discretionary goods. So with non-discretionary, which are necessary goods over here on the right-hand side. Things like food, medication, pharmaceutical stuff. Those are things we really need. So if they put up the price a lot, the demand for this stuff is not going to fall by very much. But for discretionary optional goods, if they put up the price a little bit, then we can expect the demand to fall a lot. Let's say, for example, with restaurant prices in restaurants. If they put up their prices a little bit, we might be fussy because we don't really have to go and eat out. We can eat at home. So there's an optional good. So if they put up the price a little bit here, then put up the price a little bit, the demand we can expect to fall a lot. Okay, excellent. So now we're going to come to income elasticity of demand. So what is this now? So income elasticity of demand is a measure of how sensitive quantity demand it is to a change in consumer income. So we work it out by taking the percentage change in quantity demanded for good X divided by the percentage change in income. So we need to now differentiate between normal goods and inferior goods. So with a normal good, if people's incomes go up, the demand for the good goes up. And that income elasticity is positive. So let's just see in the example now why it is positive. So let's say people's incomes go up 20% here. So I'm going to put up there in the denominator. And the demand for laptops goes up there by 10% there. So what have we got? We have got a positive in the numerator. We've got the demand going up 10 for laptops going up in the numerator by 10%. We've got income going up in the denominator by 20%. So we've got a positive divided by positive, which is a positive. So that's why we've got income elasticity is positive when we have a normal good. Right, but let's look at the inferior good. Look what happens now with the inferior good. Income goes up, but demand for the thing goes down. Okay, so demand is now going down when income goes up. So the income elasticity is now negative. So let's see the example and we'll see why. So we stick with income going up 20%. Now the demand, I've picked on rice as an inferior good. So often it is considered an inferior good because there are probably more interesting foods out there than just plain rice. So in this case, if people's incomes go up 20%, then instead of buying rice, where they might have to be 4, now they can go and buy something a bit more interesting to eat. So here we can see that the income has gone up here in the denominator 20%, but the demand for rice has gone down 10% in the numerator. So we've got a negative divided by positive is a negative. So here, that's why the income elasticity for an inferior good is negative. Okay, right. And then we've also got cross price elasticity of demand. And cross price elasticity of demand is a measure of how sensitive quantity demanded is for a good, how sensitive quantity demanded for a good is to a change in the price of a substitute or a complement, which we call a related good. So now, oh dear, I've made a bit of a mistake there. Okay, that mustn't be income elasticity of demand. That must be cross price elasticity of demand. Okay, so I'll change it on the slide that you're going to be downloading. So the slide you're looking at in your copy that you've downloaded will be the right one. So the cross price elasticity of demand, all we do now is we take the percentage change in quantity demanded for the good divided by the percentage change in the price of the substitute or the complement. So let's have a look, first of all, at substitute. So what is a substitute? So a substitute is something that competes with our good. So if the price of a substitute goes up, that's good for us because their good is becoming more expensive. So the demand for our good is going to go up. And now the cross price elasticity is positive. So let's try this example and we'll see why. Let's say we are selling Coke and the price of Pepsi goes up 10%. So Pepsi is a substitute for Coke. It competes with Coke. So we got the price of the substitute going up here in the denominator. And the demand for our good, the Coke, is going up as well. So we've got to work out the cross price elasticity. We take the price of Pepsi has gone up 20% there in the denominator. Now the demand for our Coke has gone up there 10%. I mean, the demand for our Coke has gone up 10% there in the numerator. So we've got a positive divided by positive, which is a positive. So that means that for substitutes, the cross price elasticity is positive. Okay, but let's try now a complement. So what is a complement? A complement is something that goes with our good. So as the price of a complement goes up, that's not good for us. The demand for our good is going to go down because it goes with our good. And now the cross price elasticity is negative. It's less than 0. So let's see why. Let's say we sell now something more interesting than Coke. Let's rather sell gin. Isn't that a much better idea? So now let's say tonic is a complement with gin because they go well together. Gin and tonic goes very well together. I'm sure we all know that. Right. So as the price of tonic goes up, that's a complement for gin. The demand for our gin goes down. So the price of the complement has gone up here. Now the demand for our good, the gin, has gone down over there in the numerator. So we got the opposite way around now. So the price of the tonic has gone up there, 20% in the denominator. The demand for our good has gone down 10%. Damn it, that's not good. Well, the tonic going up is not good for our gin. So now we've got a negative divided by a positive, which is a negative. So we can see the cross price elasticity for a complement is negative. Great. Okay, so now to calculate elasticities, we mustn't be too stressed because this looks very hectic if you haven't pre-read it, but really it's not bad. And we're going to see why. So we've got the 3 types of elasticities we've done. So let's start with the first one. We've got here, the first one is the own price elasticity demand. Remember what it was? It was the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in the price of the good. So to work it out, we can take P0, which is the price of the good, and we divide it by the quantity demanded for the good according to a demand function, which we're going to look at in a second. And all we do is we multiply that by the change in quantity over change in price. But we don't have to stress because this guy over here, all that is there is the slope coefficient of price. So we have to give that to us in the demand function, and we just take the slope coefficient of price. So we multiply the P over Q by the slope coefficient of price, and that's it. So let's go straight to the example, and we'll come back to the other 2. So we've got this demand function over here, where the quantity demanded for good X is equal to 50. So that is the intercept of the line, minus 4 times PX. PX is the price of good X. So we can see there's a negative relationship between the price of good X and the demand for good X. So we can see that means that as the price of good X goes up, for example, the demand is going to go down. There's a negative relationship there. And then we also got the other part of the demand function is 1.8 times the income plus 1.2 times the PY. So PY is the price of another good, of a related good. Right. So now they give us the information we need to work out the quantity. Sorry about that. They give us the information we need to work out the quantity. So we just got to substitute a number. So the price of good X is $10. So we put the income is 20 and the price of Y is 5. So there we go. So to work out the quantity, we take 50 minus 4 times the price is 10, they told us, multiplied by 1.8 times the income is 20. I guess that is a factor of thousands, I would presume, but they've just modified the equation so to make it simpler. So the income is 20, and then we multiply the last one, the coefficient for price of Y is 1.2, and we multiply that by the price of Y. The price of the other good is 5. So there we go. So the quantity demanded comes out at 52 units for this demand function if the variables are at these different prices. Okay, so now to work out the own price elasticity is actually very easy, because if it's own price elasticity, what must we do? We must take the price of the good, which is 10, the P0 there, the 10, divided by the quantity, which we've just worked out, 52. So if it's own price elasticity, what must we do? We must take the slope coefficient of price, which is 4 or minus 4. So we're going to multiply by minus 4. So it comes out at minus 0.77. So I want to ask you guys a question. Is this elastic, or is this inelastic demand for the good? Okay, think about it for a second. Elastic or inelastic? Okay, in absolute value, it's less than 1. So it's inelastic. Okay, absolute value less than 1. It's inelastic. All right, so let's have a look at the next one, which is now income elasticity of demand. So remember, this is the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in income. So now the only difference is we have income over quantity, not price anymore, but now it's income over quantity. And now we multiply by the slope coefficient of income. So let's do that quickly. So here it is over here, income elasticity. So we take income now in the numerator. They told us there's 20. We divide by the quantity. We worked out 52. So now we multiply by the slope coefficient of income, which is 1.8. So it's 0.69. That's the income elasticity. Right. And then lastly, the cross price elasticity of demand. We take the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in the price of the other good, where there's a substitute or a complement. So we take the price of the other good. Now that's the only change. And we still divide by quantity. Now we must multiply that by the slope coefficient of the other good. All right. So let's give it a go. So all we have to do now for cross price elasticity, in the numerator, we take the price of the other good. They told us the price of Y was $5 there, divide by the quantity 52, and we multiply now by the slope coefficient of the other good. There, it's 1.2. Okay, so it comes out at 0.11. So I want to ask you guys another question. Is this other good, is it a substitute or is it a complement? Okay, so here we go. It's a positive relationship. So what we can see is that if the price of Y goes up, the demand for our good X goes up. So that must be a substitute. So if the substitute price goes up, let's say like we're selling Coke here, if the price of Pepsi goes up, the demand for our good goes up. So the positive coefficient, remember we said on the previous slide, if the cross price elasticity is positive, it is a substitute. Excellent. Right. So now we just need to look, last thing we need to check quickly is the substitute and the income effects. So the substitution effect, this states that as a goods price falls, if the price falls, then we want more of it, right? So more of this good is substituted for other more expensive goods. That's quite easy. Now the income effect states this, that as a goods price falls, real income goes up, because we actually now in effect have got more money, because if a goods price falls, we end up actually having an increase in income. So remember from before, if the good is normal and income is up, we're going to purchase more. But if the good is inferior, like maybe rice, I'm going to pick on rice because we're going to do it on the next slide as well. So if the good is inferior, this means the income effect will offset, because remember with the income effect, then less will be purchased. The income effect will offset partially or fully the substitution effect. So why? Because the consumer buys less of the inferior good if he's got more income. Okay, so that's going to offset part of that positive substitution effect here when we buy more of it. Okay, so let's have a look at this Giffen goods and Veblen goods, which is, we're going to now continue with the previous slide as well. And First of all, just to see what are giffen goods. So giffen goods are highly inferior goods, and they make up a large portion of the consumer budget. So in the CFA Institute curriculum, they give an example of it's a poor rural community in China, and this is actually from a real study, and most of the income, it was spent on rice. So this is the example that they use where they got this giffen good from, right? So with the giffen good, two things are happening. The first thing, as the price, let's say the price of rice goes down, the substitution effect does what? It causes more of the good to be consumed because it's cheaper, right? That is demand up. That is a positive substitution effect. Always, substitution effect is always positive. So we always purchase more of it if the price of the thing goes down. But here comes the but. But the highly negative income effect, it outweighs the positive substitution effect. So what I'm going to do is like this. So we said above here, the price went down, right? So I'm just going to put here price going down over there. So from the previous slide, remember, if the price of the thing goes down, and especially in this example in China, they were spending most of their money, let's say, I don't know they didn't say the exact percentage, but let's say that people were spending 80% of the income just on rice. So the price of rice goes down a lot. The income effectively goes up because they got a lot more money now. So the income goes up. So what's going to happen? The demand for the rice is actually going down because they've got more money. So that means what? They can actually now purchase more interesting food. They don't have to buy rice anymore. So what happens with the giffen good is that the demand going down over here outweighs the demand going up over there, like we're saying there. So that means what? Overall demand goes down. So as price goes down, we've got overall demand for the thing going down. So the demand curves for giffen goods are positively sloped. At low prices here, like I circled there, small quantities demanded. So we're breaking the law of demand. So that's why it's such an exception, this. We don't see this often, but we just need to know that it can happen. And then lastly, Veblen goods. Now, these are high-priced status goods. So think of things like jewelry or luxury motor cars or something like that. So consumers, they buy more of these things if the price rises. So it's like a status symbol. So the higher it goes, the more people want of it. Right. So now this is also going to have a positive slope demand curve because at higher prices, more is demanded. So it's really breaking the law of demand that we're used to. And just the last point is that a Veblen good, it's definitely not inferior. Okay, the giffen goods are highly inferior, but Veblen good is the total opposite. It's definitely not inferior because with Veblen, as incomes go up, demand for these luxury items, they go up. Excellent. So that's the end of that online class, and we'll see you guys in the next class. Hello, it's Tim here again. I hope you enjoyed the class and found it beneficial. We have some classes available for free on YouTube, but we have classes for the entire curriculum. The classes that are not on YouTube can be purchased from us. If you'd like to purchase the classes, please contact us for the pricing, and I've put our contact details over here. You can purchase all the classes or certain readings that you would like. When you purchase the classes, we provide you with the slides and our notes. I've assisted hundreds of candidates pass CFA exams, and I look forward to also helping you through the CFA program. I've put in 2 testimonials in the slide over here, and we also have a testimonials page on our website that you can review. I look forward to seeing you soon, and all the best.